On today's show, we have more on the 2025 NBA Draft Part 2 with myself and Brian Schroeder, NBA Draft Analyst du jour, and all that is coming up.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1794 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Thursday here in early September. And today's podcast is brought to you by the folks at the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app right now, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. I also want to tell you at the top of the podcast, as I always do, to make us your first listen each and every day here at Locked On Hawks. Please subscribe to the podcast anywhere you might find your podcasts. We're on YouTube. Please like this video as you're watching it, plus subscribe on YouTube, plus all the audio platforms as well, from Apple to Spotify to Overcast, and again, anywhere you happen to find your podcasts. And today will be part 2 of 2, actually, with myself and Brian Schroeder. So if you missed part 1, I recommend starting there. It just makes more narrative sense to start at the beginning of this conversation. They drop at the same time, but part 1's available for you right now. This is part 2. And without any further delay, we'll dive back into the 2025 NBA Draft, myself and Brian Schroeder, and we'll do so right now. So Ace Bailey seems like he's pretty projectable. What about his teammate, Dylan Harper? Is he in that same range for you?
Yeah, Dylan has a knee thing that may be giving us an issue. I think he has, his frame is, again, he's in the hardened disciple category. His frame is very hardened, where he's just a big dude. I mean, he is Ron
His
Harper's
listing, by the way,
son.
at Rutgers is actually 6'6", 215. Is what they are saying.
I think he weighs more than 215. That's Stephon Castle. He's bigger physically than Stephon Castle.
And I cut you off, but you just say it again. He is Ron Harper's son, which is notable.
Yeah,
because
so if you remember what Ron Jr. looked like.
His brother went to Rutgers as well a couple years ago, and Dylan's a much better prospect.
Yeah, Ron is a rotund fellow. And Dylan, I'd say he's a little slimmer than his brother, but he's got that same kind of, you maybe are a little concerned with the weight distribution and how it affects his joints, because I know he's got some knee thing going on right now, but he's super skilled. He's left-handed. He's just really, really has actual point guard abilities at that size, and has really, if the shot was consistent, I would already be in. But he may be one of those guys, a lot. I always make this comparison. There's some guys who've never needed to shoot. And if you're 6'5", 225, and a good athlete in high school, you just go to the rim. And right. I don't really hold it against these guys that they aren't super polished shooters at this stage, because it's path of least resistance. If a guy can go to the rim every single play and get fouled or hit a layup, he's not going to work on his counters very much. The concern for me is honestly the other way. I almost call it the BJ Boston rule, where a guy's, if his high school tape is all him having to create on the perimeter with 15, 16 super dribbles and all these fadeaways, and it's well, maybe he can't just go past people. That might be a problem.
Maybe you can't beat your guy. Harper, by the way, I think he was MVP of McDonald's and Jordan Brand Classic. So he had a good. I almost said pre-draft, pre-summer, pre-college summer. At least on the high, and that stuff could be overvalued, but people watch those games. And
it's not as important as EYBL, but it's still high level competition. Those guys are all college players, even if they're not all pros. Those are. I don't think there's been a single McDonald's All-American who wasn't a college player, wasn't at least decent in college.
Or if they played in college, you get your
barring injury and barring
guys who play football or whatever. Yeah, Greg was Greg Paulus or something. Obviously, he played college basketball too, but I'm just thinking of guys who would have played other sports. So Dylan Harper. So what do you think as far as what he could be if it works?
Yeah, that's the concern. Is you never. We got to stop. I mean, we learned this with Kevin Porter Jr. We got to stop the hard. This guy could be James Harden. James Harden is one of the most, maybe the single most unpredictable, so maybe Giannis, star path in recent history.
Well, and you can't. It's just I almost want to do a rule now that there's just a handful of guys that you just shouldn't comp anybody to. LeBron is one of them, of course.
But, I might be breaking that rule in a minute here, but.
And that's fine, but Harden. I mean, especially the play style. Not only what as polarizing as he was and still is, he's still a good player now. He's not what he used to be. Just the way that he was allowed to play the stuff he was able to do. That like
yeah,
just
I
won't let
don't
you do.
I don't think Dylan Harper is going to end up getting like 40% usage anytime soon, like Harden had in Houston. That's
Just the step back volume that no one's ever seen before or since. No one's taking that many step backs even now. Like even the guys who do it a lot are not doing that. The foul drawing, all that stuff. Anyway,
but the idea is big initiator. That's the concept with Dylan. It's just like a guy who's legit. I mean, Josh Hart sized running.
Can he defend? What do you think about his defense?
Yeah, it seems fine.
Okay,
I don't know.
I'm just asking.
He's so big. It's hard to really. The thing is, though, it's defense, especially individual defense, like perimeter defense. I'm relying less and less on high school tape for, because like Castle, I thought was good, and it turns out that was like his main strength in college.
Yeah.
Like, he was a monster defender. That's his primary like attribute. So I'm relying less and less on guard defense, like my instincts and indicators in high school. Unless a guy is like Casey Wallace was like like his steal rate. I think he had like a 6 steal rate in high school. It's like a crazy, like, okay, that guy's a
and he was also billed to be like that was his calling card even then was supposed to be that.
So
and it still is, which makes sense.
I'm putting less and less stock in. I'm putting a lot less stock in my opinions of high school guys in general, unless it's just like unless they're like obvious stars. Like Flagg's been an obvious star for 4 years now.
Yeah, and even with the reclass and all that, he's young. Okay, that's the Rutgers guys. Who do you want to talk about next? You want to do VJ Edgecombe, the other high school guy who's kind of up there?
Yeah, Valdez VJ Edgecombe Jr. from going to Baylor, who played on the Bahamas Olympic qualifying team that almost made the Olympics and looked great.
He did. And by the way, yet another Baylor 5-star guard. They suddenly just have one every year for whatever reason.
Yep. I have 2 this year, actually.
Do they have another one?
They have Rob Wright the third. Yeah, little guy.
Yeah,
he's like maybe a fake 5-star, but he's a 5-star. I think, pretty sure.
But that still counts. Shouts to my guy Adam Flagler, who was not a 5-star but was quite good at college at Baylor. So VJ Edgecombe's your guy. You just said that. So what do you like about him beyond the good summer that he had?
Just hyper aggressive. It's like one of these guys who is a supreme athlete at 6'5", 6'9" wingspan, 185 to 195-ish pounds, like 2 guard size. A supreme athlete, but is also starting to really develop kind of that. I think that he's going to get Ant Edwards comparisons a little bit, because I think that's sort of the archetype. But that thing that Ant didn't really have, especially the first few months at Georgia, was just sort of the pace, the ability to like figure out when to attack, like the timing. Where Ant, especially early Georgia Ant, was playing like it was football, like he was just going full speed all the time. VJ really has like a good timing for cutting. Like he really puts a lot of pressure on. We're in the college football season, so it's almost like he almost runs a lot of the. This is a really old comparison, but a lot of like with the this is not even this is pro football, but the Greatest Show on Turf Rams, they had a lot of their route tree was getting teams to think Isaac Bruce is going deep, and so they would just commit. And it was like, we got to stop Isaac Bruce, and then here's Torrey Holt open for 18 yards underneath. Here's Marshall Falk out of the backfield. Edgecombe has a really good sense of how to bait teams into thinking he's trying to get a lob. I've noticed that he like charges back door and then cuts off, and like they rotate. You rotate to that because he's that kind of athlete. You're rotating to him to stop him from getting for a lob, and then like Buddy Hield was wide open for a 3. And he gave Aiden. He created a lot of space for Aiden. It was really interesting watching that Bahamas team, because he was like, while not being like the main playmaker on the team, he really felt like he was like the main catalyst for a lot of their offense. And that was a team that had DeAndre Ayton on it, and Eric Gordon, and Buddy Hield, and Lou Rawls, Tum Tum Nairn, college basketball legend. But
absolutely,
it was an interesting to have like a guy that young. The only thing I can compare it on like the FIBA stage was Rubio with Spain, where it was like when that guy was on the floor, it was just different. Like that, it was Rubio's team in a really weird way. And I really wish they'd made the Olympics. They didn't, unfortunately. They got really close. But Edgecombe, and I'm not just basing my like for him on that. He was a 5-star prospect. He's a truly excellent athlete. He killed at Hoop Summit. He looked great on the world team. Just a really confident, winsome sort of guy. Just has like really high level athletic tools and seems to understand how to leverage them already. Which, considering
Yeah.
he's not going to be the primary guard at Baylor because they'll have Jeremy Roach, like 6th-year senior Jeremy Roach.
Duke transfer Jeremy Roach, if you don't know who that
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. He's just a really fascinating guy. He's a guy I would personally want to invest in, I think. Especially if I'm a team in the Eastern Conference that's lacking in guard athleticism, that may or may not play in the really great city of Chicago.
Let's say your favorite team, perhaps. Yeah.
That's sort of, I think that's kind of why I'm latching onto him, because he seems, aside from Flagg, he's the guy I think most fits. I'm just like, yeah, that guy's capable. Like that, he brings a lot of the stuff they don't have right now.
Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors, and passion, drive, and patience for the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die vehicle alive. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and also to level it up to where you want it to be in its peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks. They have exhaust kits, they have LED headlights, and so many more things. Whether you're into speed, into power, or into style, they have you covered across the board at eBay Motors. They have over 122 million parts. For your number one ride or die, you will always find what you're looking for exactly with the folks at eBay Motors. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is also guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, but you are never burning cash. With all the parts that you need at the price that you're looking for, it is easy to turn that car or truck or SUV into the MVP that you're looking for and bring home that win that you are seeking. Keep your ride or die alive right now at ebaymotors.com. One more time, the place to go is ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
But I really like VJ. I think he's just a really high level off the 2-guard prospect, like a classic 2-guard prospect, in the way that you don't see as much anymore, like Jason Richardson type, like
yeah, classic 2 guards don't really exist that much
wing,
anymore.
like an actual like he's on the wings, cutting across the defense.
Yeah.
He's going to be an off-ball player, but he's a guard. It's
no,
not
the guy you described, I'm very interested. I did watch him play a couple of those qualifying games and was impressed. Haven't seen a ton of him before that, so that'll be a guy I'm now circling even more.
He is the oldest of this top 5 group, I will say. He is
gonna be 20 soon, 19.
He's going to be. He just turned 19. He'll be 20 just after the draft. So he'll be
that's
20
not
like
super old, but that's also
no,
not
that's
young.
Slightly old for a freshman, but this is a young.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these other guys are really young,
which is nice.
15 months older than Flagg, so that's not. I mean, it's worth marking.
And Flagg is quite young, so that's notable. Okay, that's 4 high school to college prospects. Is there anyone else in college that you would put up near the top, or should we go to the non-college players?
Yeah, I'll say 3 other guys that I'm really focusing on. Boogie Fland, John Boogie Fland, going to Arkansas. Almost went to Michigan, by the way.
I did know that's why I know about him more than most of these guys, because he
committed to Kentucky, then followed Calipari to Arkansas. He is a little guard, 6'1", 6'2", 170, long arms, just super. I mean, he's the Dillingham of this class. Just like super creative, super dynamic, really quick. And it's kind of a weird, because sometimes you watch him, you think like, oh, he's just a pull-up shooter. He's like a Bones Highland type, and then sometimes he's just like an actual point general, like an actual floor general. He seems like a reasonable bet for me to be like a starting point guard at some point, because he's just very smart, very savvy, good athlete for his size, and shoot, can pass. With a guy like, again, I'm sure Hawks fans know this. I'm sure Hawks fans have had to defend this, and I've said this before. Point guard defense. If it's good, if it's there, that's good. But it's not something. If you are a true, like engine, if you are running the offense, your defense is not make or break for me personally. And I think he's that. Like Ja's defense isn't good, and Boogie is the same kind of size guy.
Yeah.
Appreciate
the acquire there.
Dillingham is the guy you're looking at, kind of like the. So he may start his career in the Conley mold of being like a spark plug kind of off the bench guard, and then he may. But I feel reasonably confident he'll be a starting point guard in the NBA at some point, which is, again, even in this good draft, at a certain point when you get down into like 8, 9, 10 to 20 range, that's what you're looking at. You're not really looking at superstars anymore.
I will always say that once you got outside the top, even the top 3 or 4 picks, if you get a starter, you're doing pretty well. That's just what it is. I got to watch Arkansas, just like Kentucky. They kind of, it's funny. They both have completely new rosters, like completely new rosters, like from a college standpoint, but also from a prospect standpoint.
Arkansas has Brazil.
Oh yeah, because he came back
Brazil.
after leave.
Yeah,
he's tried to leave 3 times and has not never left. He keeps staying. So that's
the weird thing is Kentucky has like 5 graduates. Like Kentucky's going to be one of the oldest teams in the nation this year.
They're both portaling like crazy. Anyway, all that to say, that's notable SEC stuff. Who else? Drake Powell's on your list. UNC.
Powell. That's my number 1 guy this year. I feel like
he's your guy.
He's the most. He's the my archetype big guard player of this draft.
I was going to ask that question, so you just answered it. Who's the guy?
Wingspan, 200 pounds, high passing usage, high defensive usage, slashing guard. So, Tyrese Halliburton.
That sounds like you.
Sean Livingston, all those kind of guys. Those are my guys. Drake Powell, defense is terrific. He's just like immediately great complimentary player. Just a big fan of his length and his defense. That means he's probably going to be like 8 or 9 for me. Like unless the scoring really jumps up. Which is great. Yeah. Again, it's a guy that I'll be all over in the back half of the 10s, just looking for like Kessel, that kind of player.
And you just described a really high level role player that would be valuable to any team in the league, if
DeLon Wright was 200 pounds.
Well, now you're speaking my language above all else.
DeLon Wright was 200 pounds. The world would be a much better place.
I would agree.
Drake is very simple. And then the last college guy that I really feel compelled to mention is the only sophomore, like only non-freshman.
I was going to say, your number 1 returner.
Collin Murray-Boyles from South Carolina, who's very young. He was, I don't want to say he was a nobody last year, but he was sort of an afterthought after South Carolina was not expected to be good. That Gigi Jackson team was bad.
Yes.
And Murray-Boyles just kept playing for them, kept starting, kept producing. He's a really interesting archetype because he is a 6'7", 230-pound, 7'2" wingspan forward who did not shoot a 3 all season.
And that, if you stop right there, it's like, what are we even talking about right now?
But he may be the only guy. And again, I always caution people to not do these comparisons. He may be Draymond like, just in his. So
you broke your rule. You did break your rule. You said you're going to. That was it.
He's got like very similar build, very similar size and movement, but also very similar just kind of freakish instincts as a defender. Ability to read, rotate, cut off the paint, trap little guys coming into the paint, and then rotate over and block centers, box guys out, hit a head. The passing is maybe not up there yet, but we'll see. I don't recall watching freshman Draymond Green, so
he was very overweight. He was also very, very overweight early in his career.
Yeah.
Our guy Sam Vecini, I saw this in prepping. I think he compared him to like the better version of Grant Williams.
Yeah. Maybe like Diaw is a more like later career. Diaw is a better comparison, but I think he's one of these.
Also, by the way, Sam has a lottery pick too, so he's. I think he's in.
No, he's young. So. He was really productive. Is the thing with South Carolina, and they were really good with him on the floor, because he was just a monster rebounder, truly an excellent defender, not like a shot blocker, and not even like a steals guy. Just within 10 minutes of watching him, you just watch him play defense. It was like, oh, this guy's like very good. I
really liked him. Like, he's a guy I probably saw a lot just because he played college the whole season. So like I've seen him play more than the rest of these guys other than Flagg. I would say I really like him as a college player. I like him as a prospect. I don't know what to make of it. I will admit I'm not sure what to do translation wise. Like
that's the issue.
I get having him as a lottery pick right now. It would not surprise me if he's not anywhere near there in 6 months. But also, he might be. I do like him from what I've seen.
For me,
the no shooting thing is a little bit scary. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, if he develops a spot up jump shot, then I honestly think he translates more like Paul Millsap, which I think is much more viable than the Draymond thing. The Draymond thing was just me noticing like his hands. I don't know. It's really weird. It's like
He kind of has Millsap. I'm looking at his numbers right now from last year. Also, his measurables are very Millsap-ish.
Yeah,
like
that's also
6'7", 7'2" wingspan. Sounds like Paul Millsap to me. Block and steal numbers, all those things. I feel like that's what. Now that you mentioned it, his stat profile looks like Paul Millsap.
Yeah,
to me.
Yeah,
but obviously that's and Paul Millsap. I know you know this, but was an outlier as far as like how it went because like he went in the 40s in the draft, didn't become a star until he was like 28. Like it was a weird thing it worked though, and I love Paul endlessly till the end of time. But that was a weird development trajectory that no one would have projected. To be fair, so.
And that's the thing, but I think that's part of why, and I would feel a lot more nervous. I liked him last year, and I would have had him in the draft if he declared. But I also kind of glad he went back because I want to see more. Like you said, if in December I have him in like the 50s, I won't be surprised. But I want to see. I just want to see more, and I want to see what the usage looks like. And I'm glad that I'm not. Like some guys, I'm kind of out on an island on. I could maybe mention a couple of those guys later that I feel very confident in. That maybe only a couple other people I know about or talk about, I know about. But I know I don't feel. I feel more confident with Murray-Boyles in that way, and I think that's good. I feel good about that.
Today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. And what's something you would love to learn? As an adult, you make time to learn new things as often as you would like to, or was that lost in your childhood somewhere? It's great to have curiosity, and you can stick it out with the folks at BetterHelp. Therapy can help for everyone. It also helps you focus on what you want instead of what others happen to have around you. And that starts to help you to live your best possible life. You can learn positive coping skills, how to set better boundaries, and many more. Certainly strong things to build on in therapy. I have my own stresses to deal with. Of course, you can also benefit from getting things off of our chest. I know I can. And if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try right now. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient and flexible to your schedule at BetterHelp. And that schedule part is huge if you're navigating stuff like me, like time crunches and stuff. They're very flexible, and that is huge at BetterHelp. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time if you want to for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with the folks at BetterHelp. And the place to go is betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. Get 10% off your first month with BetterHelp. One more time, the place to go and visit is BetterHelp. That's better, H-E-L-P, betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. I wonder what it'll look like this year. South Carolina is another weird. I don't know if they're going to be good or not. I'm looking at the projections.
Right the only other returners in my first round, I'll say here, Brandon Garrison at Kentucky, who played at Oklahoma State last year. It's just a space-eating big, really good vertical athlete. Tamin Lipsey, one of my guys at Iowa State, who's just
you do like Tamin Lipsey. I knew that. What about his teammate at Iowa State? Is he on your list somewhere? It's Milan.
He's on my list. He's not in my. He's top 45.
Okay, because he's the internet favorite.
Yeah, Joe Tugler at Houston, who's recovering from an injury, so we'll see how he looks. And then Nick Clifford, Colorado State, Jameer Watkins at Florida State, and Silas DeMurray from Georgia, who is a monster defender. I really like Silas.
Go Dogs, as they say. I'm not a Georgia fan. But,
and then one more who I will mention later is my other ultimate guy.
All right, we'll hold on for that. Before we get to that, and I probably won't keep you too much longer, but Nolan Traore is the other probably biggest name gets thrown around there. People want him to play for France in the Olympics, but he wasn't on the team. What do you think of him? Because he's the other guy that I usually see in top fives, top sixes in this class.
Super crafty, but in the way that TJ McConnell is crafty because he has to be. Nolan's 6'3", 185 and can run and jump. He's a good athlete. But that's
real size for a point guard.
Yeah, he's already I honestly, he really reminds me of Dragic in a lot of ways. Just shifting gears in and out. Because people, you want to do the Tony Parker comparison, and I know people like that one. He's not as fast, straight line speed as Tony, but at this stage, he's already just much smarter and much better at playing point guard than Tony Parker, who really was just kind of an attack guard for his first couple of years in the league.
I have a question. If Nolan Traore was not French, would he be compared to Tony Parker?
I still think he'd get the comparison. It would be
okay.
It'd be
I'm just
more
asking.
like my Weber one, where it was one you have to think about though.
Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I like Dragic for him. I like sort of it's not an archetype because a lot of the little guards, like you want to say like Kemba, Isaiah Thomas, even Trey, are more pull-up shooters, and Traore is more of a drive and kick guy. Drive and kick, tough finish, kind of lateral. He's more of
He's
an
bigger
angles like
than all those guys you just named. He's bigger
yeah,
than all those guys. Like
yeah.
considerably.
But he's not like he's also not like a take the top off the ceiling athlete either.
Right.
Like, and he's not built the way that like Scoot is. So he's kind of a weird in between kind of guard for as far as like recent guard prospects go, where he has size and athleticism, but that's not like his main thing. And he's also not like a pull-up guy, like not strictly a pull-up guy. He's got a very interesting game. He's just really good at basketball. I don't know how to describe him. Very skilled, very skilled, very intelligent, just like a good hooper.
I heard he was good at Hoop Summit. I did not get to see a lot of that, but that's usually a good sign. But anyway, that's a guy that I think people that
he is playing
at this now for the first time
at San Quentin, which is where Melvin Aginsa played this last season, and is also in the LNB, which would be 3 straight top 10 picks from the LNB, which would be interesting.
Yeah, and he flirted with college
after two straight number 1 picks in the LNB.
Right. I think that he was like close to going to college too. Like he was, there was a time when he was like considering.
I think you don't have to now. That like you don't have to.
No, that's why he didn't. I think. Is there anybody else that you want to get to before we get to like guys that we know that you're high on? I want you to be able to evangelize at the end of the podcast.
The other 2 overseas players in my top 10 are Hugo Gonzalez, who I'm somewhat skeptical of, but has just looked really skilled every time I've seen him. Real Madrid, kind of a guard forward, 6'6", 200, good athlete. He's maybe the most skeptical on of the top group, but he does have he's a guard forward, like a true swingman, which again is still kind of rare.
And by all accounts, has won everything.
Yeah, it's just super productive, super skilled. Like I have very little doubt he's going to be an NBA player. I'm just not sure if he's Franz or if he's like John Salmons.
Oh God! Wow, that is quite a range.
That famed archetype we all think of, the Franz John Salmons archetype.
John Salmons.
I love John Salmons. He won the Bulls.
I know you do, which is why it's so funny to me that you brought him up. Okay, that's a wide range, but I like what I've seen. I've never seen him play. I'll admit that right now on the podcast. But what I have read and heard and what you just said, I'm interested in Hugo Gonzalez. Yeah.
And then the other one is the big man himself, Big Rocco. I'm already excited to watch NBL games because I get to hear Australian commentators say the name Rocco. Rocco Zikarsky, Australian. He's on Brisbane Bullets. Best thing I'll say about him is he was Aaron Baines' backup, and he was the guy they brought in when they wanted more physicality than Aaron Baines.
That's quite. Is he actually? Is like what 7'2", 7'3"?
He's 7'2". He's 7'2",
enormous.
250, 260. He's Klingon sized. He's just a little trimmer and probably more conditioned athlete and probably a better overall athlete than Klingon. That's an easy comparison, but like if you didn't have any of the athletic or conditioning concerns for Klingon, that's basically Rocco Zikarsky, and that is a top 5 pick to me in a lot of drafts. Like,
well, yeah. If that my follow-up question to that is like, is the defensive instincts similar to Klingon? Because that's
yes.
If that's the case, then that's impressive.
I don't know if he'd be as dominant in college because he's not as wide, which is the thing people don't talk about with Klingon, which is why aside from his conditioning, his weight's never been a big issue for me because his width is almost as much.
He uses it, yeah.
Rocco is thinner and probably leaner, but he's a little bendier. Just I don't know. He makes his presence felt instantly in the NBL, like instantly. Like offensive rebound monster, can shoot like that. If you leave him standing alone, he'll shoot his little left-handed kind of like trebuchet shot. But I don't really care what a 7'2" guy's shot looks like. You know, they're not going to look like Porzingis that often. Porzingis is kind of a unique shooter in that regard. A lot like Valanciunas shoots like he's hurling a boulder, but it goes in. He's 35% shooter.
That is accurate. That's a good
Valanciunas is like he's throwing that thing, but he's a good shooter. He's a competent shooter. Brook Lopez.
He has been a competent shooter. Yeah.
Brook Lopez shoots like he's checking the top of the fridge. Like Brook Lopez's shot is very low effort.
It is very odd. It's very odd looking, and he didn't shoot it until he was 30 or something. Like it was 28.
What I'm saying is, if you're 7'2", I don't care. The aesthetics of your shot do not matter. Can you hit?
That's true. It's either they go in or they don't. Is what matters there. I agree with you on that. Okay, give me your guys down the list. I know you got a few you want to get to. Go ahead.
It's kind of weird for me to say this because he's a 5-star recruit, but I think Ian Jackson is a little under discussed. It's weird because I didn't like him.
North Carolina guard, by the way, for everybody listening.
Ian Captain Jackson. This is Captain Jack. Is his nickname. He's a weird player because 2 years ago he was being pitched as like a lead point guard, and I didn't like him at all. Like I was like, this guy can't really handle. He's not like a ISO guy. He's not like a creator, and now he's really being looked at more as like a hustle guard, like a combo crazy guy to just run around and make plays. And I'm like, he kind of kicks ass at that. He was really fun.
That's also much more up your alley. And he's from New York, by the way. Like he's like a Bronx guy, right? I think he's from the Bronx. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
He plays super hard, like really hard, good athlete. I just like him. I like him more than like the Trey Johnson types in that range. Let's see. I mentioned Garrison and DeMurray. Pharaoh Compton from San Diego State is the freshman guy I'm looking at. 6'8". You won't believe it. San Diego State has a 6'8", 240 guy with like a 7-foot wingspan. Also, his name is Pharaoh Compton.
I would believe that. Just to be clear.
We'll go with Dalen Swain, who I talked about a little bit last year from Xavier, who had Devin Vassell like defensive numbers. He didn't get the ball at all. He missed the last couple weeks of the season with surgery, and that sounds concerning. It was appendix, so could be fine.
Oh, that just happens. Yeah,
that's fine.
Is Xavier gonna be any good? Because they were like weirdly not good.
Yeah, I don't know. And they lost Desmond Claude to USC, so we'll see. But if they're bad, then maybe they'll give him the ball and he can actually like create. Because defensively, he looked ready to go as an NBA player. He's also very young. He turns 19 right after the draft. For a sophomore, pretty young. I just really like Swain. Like Swain just had like the timing and all the defensive instincts that I love to see.
Mm-hmm.
Kimani Hamilton from High Point, former Mississippi State player. Another guy who just my favorite kind of. I have my type. I like kind of smaller, lunatic. I like guys I like centers who play up at this level of the screen. There's one of those in this draft, Yaxel Lendeborg from UAB, who was crazy athlete, like crazy turn and contain guy for a 6'10", 240 center. One defensive player of the year for them. So that's like the kind of center I like the most. Like it, you don't have to shoot, you don't have to handle, just hedge, screens, and dunk. Taj Gibson. That's my type of center.
Yep.
I like bigger, stronger wings, like Paul Millsap types, like the Flagg types, like fours. For wings, it's the Jalen Slauson archetype. Like this guy has like 18 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks. Like just the guys who fill everything up. So Kimani Hamilton is one of those guys. So is the other guy I wanted to mention before, the other first-round guy, St. Thomas at USC, former Loyola player, who missed most of his first year with what I heard was a mental health issue. And I'm not going to delve any further into that as a fellow mental health advocate and sufferer. Ended up transferring to Northern Colorado and had a statistically absurd year.
Yeah, he was really, really, really good at Northern Colorado last year, like by all accounts.
Now he's
a draft sicko sleeper for sure.
Yeah. Well, he was a 4-star. He was a guy that I had heard of in high school. Didn't play. No chance to play at all. Loyola transferred out Northern Colorado, dominated. Like he was awesome. Now he's at USC, and if he does what he did at USC, like in the Big Ten,
oh God.
It's going to be real interesting. Yeah. I'm going to have some real interesting thoughts about that.
Yeah, I'm looking at his 247 page. He did have some, like he was a top 250 recruit at least.
Yeah, he was a
guy. He was a 3-star, but certainly was like a guy that people recruited. So,
that might be the last guy I mentioned. I mean, there's some other guys. They just kind of in a wait and see. Wesley Yates, he's actually a teammate at USC. I want to see him actually play. That's been the interesting thing with that guy. He was a big recruit at Washington and had a foot problem, I believe. He never got on the floor, but a lot of people who watch more high school than I do really like him. It's just like I don't want to see Jordan Adams came into my head, but I think that's the foot injury. But just like a super polished scoring guard of just like really, really effective driving kick guy. Fun fact about him, he is Quincy Pondexter's nephew or cousin. And Quincy Pondexter was the assistant coach at Washington, now is an assistant coach at USC. Interesting. They were a package deal, from what I understand.
Okay,
but
well, that makes
Wesley
sense.
Yates the third. And then everybody else are just like centers. And like I have Will Riley in my lottery because he reclassified. I'm not in love with him as a player.
I was gonna ask you because he's going to Illinois, and
same for
Dink Pate. Going to be the Big Ten. Oh yeah, Dink Pate is a guy that's
because those are going down my type of player. The guard thing is like the big guard, like the 6'6" above Tracy McGrady style guard, which is what I believe Drake Powell is. I don't really believe Riley or Dink Pate are that. If they were, if I was convinced, then I would have him higher.
This is a very different player. Do you like Liam McNeely from UConn?
And he's good. He's good. He made a horrible choice decommitting from Indiana University, but otherwise.
Well, that's part of why I asked you, but also UConn has been, sprinkling their dust over everyone the last couple of years, and it's just like everything's going great there. And the shooting is what I know about him. I feel like there's always a shooter or two that end up going in that like late lottery range that just because they're shooters. And
I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe he's top 20. I think I have him 19. So he's not. Let's not.
I'm circling that because I know Sam had him in the top 10. UConn's got the juice right now.
I understand it. I'm not it's tools. Like I've always said, tools are my main.
Yeah, and that's why I was not surprised you didn't have him quite as high. But
he's not a poor athlete. He just seems like a decent athlete. And then to finish out the archetype thing, my archetype, my favorite archetype for guards are little guards, little jitterbug like point guards.
Tiny
I love
guys.
those guys. Monte Morris,
Taman Lipsey,
Earl Boykins, the big Earl Boykins guy, big BJ Armstrong guy.
Do you like Mark Sears as an NBA player? Speaking of small guards.
Well, okay, so for me, for the small guard is the athleticism for the small guards.
Well, I know.
Nate Robb.
And Sears is a truly awesome college player, and like him going back to college is big news, and he'll be an All-American and all those things. I just don't know about him. I think he's going to be a European guard if I had to guess.
Probably.
We'll see.
Probably.
He's one of the more famous players in college. This is why I asked. Because people will know
Alabama's
he was really good last year.
Alabama's going to be really good. They got everybody back, and they have some good recruits. They have Darion Reed, who's like a nice wing.
And Grant Nelson came back too, didn't he?
Yep. Aiden Sherrill is like a stretch. Like he could conceivably be a guy. I just don't think he's going to get play time. But he could conceivably be like a 3 and blocks guy. And then LeBaron Philon, another big guard they got, whose name is
they're going to be loaded. That's a great name. I just saw a name on your list on your mock draft list. I cannot believe that Tyon Grant Foster is still in college.
Mm-hmm. He should have stayed. He should have gone.
Isn't he like 25? He's got to be
25. Yeah. Now that's 25. He's now 2.5 years missed, so it's not a killer.
Right. He's still he's at Grand Canyon, but man, he's really really old.
So is Kayshawn Pryor, who's down there. I'm gonna think of more like names though. Vazumana Zoom Diallo is great.
Man, this is a great name draft from just guys that you've already said. How do you say the Duke guard's name?
Khan Kniple or
Kniple? Is that how you say that?
Yeah. I've said Kniple. It could be Nepper. I'll have to hear it.
Anyway, I'm showing my because
I've heard it 3 or 4 different ways on broadcasts already, so we'll see.
That's always great. Okay, well, feel free to empty the clip. But I think we probably touched on a bunch of guys.
That's everybody
we'll
I really want to talk about. Like, really, it's too early. Like, I don't.
I purposely, and I appreciate you doing this in the dead of off season because.
Well, I mean, for like the weirdo like second round guys, those guys aside from Kion and like Nick Clifford, those guys all went to school. Those guys all left. They're not at school anymore. So I don't really have the
You'll find more.
Empty. Oh, I will. But I don't have it right now. I have possible guys. Pat Phillips. I have a lot of guys who could be that guy, but I don't really feel confident talking about them yet.
I understand. You'll find more. Well, thank you for doing this as always.
Elijah Hawkins. Seydou Traore at Iowa. That guy's crazy.
Traore.
That guy's got crazy. That is not an Iowa basketball player. 6'7", 220, block steals guy.
Not an Iowa guy. Than
weird
usual.
Player. No.
Brian, where can folks find all of your work? You should plug that even in the dead of late summer.
Patreon.com/BrianJNBA. I haven't done anything for a few weeks. I do plan on having the project I mentioned briefly. I should start it. It won't take me very long. It's going to be, I'm going to like go back through. I already have the list of guys. I just need to write a thing about it of every 5-star in like the 24/7 database. And I just want to get like a chart going of like how many of these guys were even in the NBA. We're not talking about like how many of them were good. I mean, I'll make a note of like, Karl Towns. Karl Towns. But like, it feels to me that we're getting more Dustin Edwards and like Billy Prestons. Remember Billy Preston from years ago? Guys who just weren't good in college at all. And I don't want to cast aspersions and say that it's people are paying for 5-stars without some evidence that these guys actually aren't that good. Because like, yes, a lot of 5-star decisions are popularity contests. Jared McCain was always going to be a 5-star if he wasn't good because he's super popular. But also, Jared McCain was good in college. Like, he was a good college player.
He was.
So, like, it's not me casting aspersions like he's some bum who got gifted a 5-star. It's just the frequency. The just from what I'm looking at, when in 2012, 2013 there were like 11 or 12 5-stars, and in 2022 there were 40. The talent has not grown that rapidly.
No, I mean, I'm looking at. We'll sign off, but like names in recent years, I'm just looking at the list right now of guys who like very clearly did not make the NBA and that were in the top 10 of their classes.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. I look forward to reading that, and I am a patron of yours. I always say that, but it's true. Yeah. But people should check it out.
Basically, what I did is I put them in 4 categories of all-star, NBA player, fringe NBA player, which is like I have. Let's see, looking through back here, Julian Wright, Daquan Cook, Kyle Singler. Like these guys who played.
Amari Bailey, is he going to be on the fringe NBA player list?
Probably,
I think he played in the NBA for like a half a second.
Chris Singleton is on there, and then there's the guys who are just busts. And what I've noticed is the bust percentage has really started to tick up. Like there's 3 or 4. One year had 9 of them in the last decade, and like you look back, 2003 had James Lang. That's it. Like Duty Eby played in the NBA, so he's not a bust. Yeah, it's become it's something I'm really fascinated with. And so I gave them all like scores, and I just need to write it up pretty much. I'm pretty much done.
No, that will be actually really interesting and I would say informative for future stuff too. So we'll talk about it. We'll probably talk about that when you come back on later on.
Yep.
But thank you again for doing this. People should be following on Twitter as well if they are on that service. Twitter/X at BrianJNBA.
I believe it's still
correct. Twitter/X is what I go with, just so people know what I'm talking about.
Formerly known as Twitter.
Yes, formerly known as.
I can't wait to input my banking information.
I'm sure you can. That's really
great
exciting.
Idea.
Well, I'm sure you have a cat to play with. Thank you, Brian, for being here. Everybody, that's for everybody else. Please subscribe to the show. Check out Brian's work one more time because I recommend that at the highest level. And we'll see you all next time.